I came back early. That's the sentence I keep replaying in my mind. Like if I hadn't walked through that door at 4:17 p.m., everything in my life wouldn't have shattered the way it did. My name is Marcus Ellison, a 42-year-old father who thought he understood his world. But that afternoon taught me just how blind I'd been. I share new life stories here every day, and I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Now let's jump back into my story. I'm sure you love it. If you keep listening till the end and tell me from which part of the world you are watching this story, I am interested to know. How far away this story traveled, the house was too quiet when I stepped inside. No TV, no music, not even the hum of the old ceiling fan my daughter always forgot to turn off. I knew something was wrong before I even saw it. The hallway smelled like jasmine, the same perfume Naomi, my late wife, used to wear. My heart squeezed. It had been 3 years since her passing. But grief doesn't keep time, like clocks do. I walked toward the living room, expecting my daughter to be curled up doing homework or napping on the couch instead. I froze my 16-year-old daughter. Liana was on her knees on the carpet, tears streaking down her cheeks. Her hands were clenched around several shredded papers. Pieces of a letter, maybe. She wasn't praying, but she looked like someone begging the universe for something it kept refusing to give her. And standing in front of her was someone I never expected to see again. My sister-in-law, Rochelle, Naomi's older sister, the woman who disappeared from our lives right after the funeral without a word. She looked at my daughter with an expression that was part pain, part guilt, part something I couldn't yet name. Before I could speak, Liana's voice cracked through the silence. Please, teach me how to be a woman like Mom was. I don't know how. I don't want to mess up my life like I'm messing up everything else. My stomach twisted. The air felt too thin. My vision, Tunneled. Rochelle took a slow step toward her and whispered, Baby, your mama wasn't perfect. She struggled too. Liana shook her head violently. But she knew who she was. She knew how to be strong. I don't. I'm failing at everything. School, friends, my life. And Dad won't tell me anything real. I need someone who understands Mom. Rochelle knelt beside her. I stood in the doorway, every emotion colliding inside me. I wasn't supposed to hear any of that. Rochelle's voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. I didn't come here to replace her. I came because I found something Naomi left behind for you. That's when my throat closed. What are you doing here? I finally croaked, stepping into the room. Both of them snapped their heads toward me. Liana's eyes widened in panic. Rochelle's hardened for a brief second, that familiar Ellison stubbornness Naomi once accused both of us of having. But then her expression softened. I came back because I found something, Rochelle said quietly. Something Naomi wrote, for both of you. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small leather journal, the exact one Naomi used to write in every night at the kitchen table. My breath hitched. How did you get that? I demanded. She gave it to me before she passed, Rochelle said. She made me promise to deliver it when the time was right. I failed at that. I ran. I wasn't ready. Liana clutched the shredded papers. These are Mom's. Rochelle nodded. Her last letters to you. My knees nearly gave out. Why now? I whispered. Rochelle looked straight into my eyes. Because it's time for all three of us to stop pretending we're okay. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my wife and her secrets began to unravel. I didn't speak for a full minute. The room felt too full of tension, of grief, all 3 years of silence that had finally cracked open. Liana slowly stood up, wiping her face with the sleeve of her hoodie. The pieces of the shredded letter fluttered from her hands to the carpet like dry leaves. Something in me broke seeing her like that, my bright, funny daughter reduced to trembling uncertainty. Dad, I didn't mean to hide this from you, she whispered. I put a hand on her shoulder. Baby, you didn't do anything wrong. Rochelle cleared her throat, clearly gearing up for something heavier. Naomi gave me this journal 3 days before the hospital. Her voice wavered for the first time. She said she didn't want to leave the world without explaining herself. I frowned. Explaining what? She handed me the journal. The leather was worn, soft at the edges, familiar. Naomi used to write in it after everyone went to bed, saying it helped her make sense of her messy soul. I always teased her about being dramatic. Now that joke felt cruel. I opened the journal cautiously. On the first page, in Naomi's looping handwriting, were the words for Marcus and for Liana. If I didn't get to say everything in time, my throat closed. Liana gasped and covered her mouth. Rochelle stepped back, giving us space but staying close enough to steady herself. She looked exhausted, not physically, but emotionally, like she'd carried this weight far longer than she was meant to. "Why didn't you give this to us earlier?" I asked quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. Rochelle's eyes glossed over. "Because I didn't handle her death the way you did. You became strong. You kept going. Didn't I scoffed at that? Strong. Rochelle, I barely slept for a year. I lived on black coffee and misery. I only held it together for Liana." "Exactly," she said. "You held it together. I fell apart." Liana stepped closer to her aunt. "But why now? Why today?" Rochelle lifted a shaking hand and pointed to the scraps of paper on the floor. "Because you found the letters," she said. "And because I saw Naomi in your eyes today, that same lost look she had when she was your age." I felt the floor shift under me. "What do you mean?" "Naomi wasn't lost." Rochelle exhaled slowly. "Marcus, my sister, battled more than the cancer. She tried to tell you. She tried to tell both of us. But we didn't listen." The silence was thick enough to choke on. I forced myself to look back at the journal. My hands trembled as I turned to the next page. There are things about me I never shared. The first entry began, "If you're reading this—" I didn't get the chance. My heart pounded. "I don't want to do this alone," I said, my voice cracking. Liana moved beside me, her small hand wrapping around my arm. "We'll read it together." Rochelle sat down on the couch, wringing her fingers. "I can answer some questions," she murmured. "But not all. A lot of her secrets she never told me either." I opened to the next entry, dated 5 months before Naomi passed. Naomi's words felt alive on the page. "I've always been afraid that the people I love will only see the strong version of me. The one who smiles. The one who laughs the loudest. The one who never falls apart. But the truth is, I've been falling apart for years." Liana inhaled sharply. I kept reading. "If something happens to me, I want Liana to know this. Strength is not silence. And Marcus, I want you to forgive me for the things I hid." My fist clenched around the journal. What things? What did she hide? Rochelle closed her eyes like she already knew the storm was coming. "There's more," she whispered. "Much more." She looked at me with a mix of fear and regret. "And it's about to change everything you believed about your marriage." The words blurred on the page, not because they were unreadable, but because my pulse hammered so loudly it drowned out everything else. Liana tightened her grip on my arm. Rochelle sat like a shadow on the couch, guilt radiating off her like heat. What did she hide from me? I whispered. Rochelle didn't answer. Not yet. She just nodded toward the journal. "Keep reading, Marcus. Let her tell you herself." So I did. The next entry wasn't dated, which felt strange for Naomi. She was organized, almost obsessive about adding dates to everything. The handwriting looked shakier, more rushed. It began, "I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to explain why I kept it to myself. But I guess the beginning is this. I've been scared since I was a teenager. And I never stopped being scared." My brow furrowed. "Scared, Naomi?" The woman who laughed at thunderstorms and once chased a raccoon off our porch with a broom. One kept reading, "Liana, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I know you think you're failing. I know you think you're lost. But, baby, I was too. I just hid it better." Liana leaned closer and whispered, "Mom." Her voice cracked on the word. The entry continued. "Struggled all my life with feeling like I wasn't enough. Not as a sister, not as a wife, not as a mother. I had panic attacks I never told anyone about. Nights I couldn't breathe, days I couldn't get out of bed. I thought if I told the truth, people would see me as weak. My chest tightened. I'd never known. Not once. And that thought hit me like a blow. I had slept beside Naomi for 17 years. Shared a home. Shared a child. Shared a life. How could I not see? How long? I asked Rochelle all her life, she said softly. Since she was about Liana's age. She handled it better as an adult, but she still struggled. She just didn't want anyone to know. I swallowed hard. The shame burned deep. Why didn't you tell me? I asked her. Rochelle looked down at her hands. It wasn't my story to tell, Marcus. And Naomi begged me not to. I clenched my jaw. The next journal entry shifted suddenly, turning sharper. More urgent. The hardest part to confess is this. I didn't go to the doctor the first time I noticed something was wrong. I waited. I waited too long because I was terrified they'd confirm what I already feared. I froze. No. No, Liana's breath hitched. Dad, does she mean? I forced myself to read the next paragraph. I felt the lump a year before I told anyone. A year I convinced myself it was nothing. I convinced myself I was overreacting. I convinced myself my fear wasn't real. And even if it was, I could push through it. But ignoring it cost me time I can't get back. Everything inside me went silent. That year when she said she was just tired. That year when she suddenly wore loose sweaters even in summer. That year when she said she didn't want photos taken. I had believed her. I had trusted her. I had missed the truth. Liana's knees buckled and she sat back down on the carpet. Mom could have lived longer, she whispered. If she went sooner? If she wasn't scared? Rochelle wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. She blamed herself more than anyone ever could have. I slowly lowered the journal and looked at Rochelle. Why didn't you tell me she waited? She shook her head. She made me promise. She wanted you to remember her as strong. She didn't want to be your burden. My jaw tightened, emotion rising like a wave I couldn't hold back. She wasn't a burden, I said, voice breaking. I know, Rochelle whispered, but she didn't believe that. I looked at Liana, who stared at the journal like it was a window into her mother's soul. Keep reading. Dad, she murmured. We need to know everything. I turned the page. The next line was short. Too short, but it carried more weight than every word before it. There is one more secret. The one I never planned for you to find out. I felt the room tilt. Rochelle stiffened. Liana's eyes widened. And for the first time that day, I felt afraid. Asterisk for a long moment, none of us moved. The journal lay open in my hands. Naomi's final unfinished confession staring back at me like a locked door. I wasn't sure, wanted to open. Liana reached up and touched the page with trembling fingers. Dad, she whispered, whatever it is, we can handle it. I didn't feel ready, but I nodded, and I read. The handwriting was uneven, almost desperate. This is the hardest truth I've ever written, and the one I never had the courage to say out loud. My breath stalled. Marcus, I love you. I always did. But before you? Before our life, there was a pain I carried for years. Something that shaped me, even when I pretended it didn't. And it's the reason I was always so afraid. My stomach clenched. Afraid of what? I turned the page. The next entry was longer, shakier, like she'd written it through tears. When I was 19, I went through something I never told anyone. Not Rochelle. Not my parents. Not you, I wasn't. Hurt by someone? But I was hurt by life. Rochelle let out a breath she'd been holding. She told me some of this, she whispered. Not all. I kept reading. I found out I was pregnant. I was young, scared, and alone. I didn't know who I was yet. I barely knew how to breathe. I made a choice I wasn't proud of then, but I understand now. I chose adoption. My heart froze mid-beat. Pregnant. Adoption. Naomi. I reread the sentence 3 times before it truly hit. Liana covered her mouth. Mom had a baby. Before me. Rochelle dropped her head into her hands, shoulders shaking. She wanted to tell you both 100 times. She just couldn't carry the guilt. I turned the page with trembling fingers. I tried to forget, Marcus. I tried to bury it, pretend it never happened. But the truth is, I carried it every day. I wondered who that child became. I wondered if they were happy, if they were safe, if they hated me. I lived in fear that one day they'd find me and think I abandoned them. The room felt heavy, air thick enough to choke on. I looked at Rochelle. You knew. She shook her head violently. No, she told me only that she made a mistake when she was younger, something she regretted. She never said what it was. If she had, I would have stayed. I would have helped her. I didn't know it was this. Liana wiped tears with the heel of her palm. Why wouldn't she tell us? We wouldn't have been mad. No, I said quietly, but she was. I turned back to the journal. When I got sick, I felt like the past was punishing me. Like I didn't deserve more time. But if you're reading this, Marcus, please don't think less of me. I was just a scared girl who didn't know how to be a woman yet. Liana sobbed softly, just like me. The next paragraph hit even harder. If that child ever finds you or Liana, please be kind. Tell them I loved them, even if I didn't get to show it. I closed the journal, my hands shaking. I'd spent 3 years grieving Naomi the way I thought she was, strong, unbreakable, invincible. But the truth was far simpler and far more heartbreaking. She had been human, flawed, afraid, carrying a secret so heavy it split her soul in two. Liana pressed her face into my chest, and I wrapped my arms around her. Rochelle stood and walked toward us, her eyes red and exhausted. She was trying to protect all of us, she whispered. But secrets, they eat you alive. I nodded. We won't repeat her mistakes, I said. No more hiding. No more pretending. We talk. We face things together. Liana looked up at me with swollen eyes. Dad, what if that first child finds us someday? I took a breath. Then we opened the door. I said, just like we're doing now. Rochelle placed her hand on my shoulder. Naomi would be proud. For the first time since walking through the door that afternoon, the silence in the house felt different. Not heavy, not mournful, but healing. A beginning instead of an ending. And Naomi's journal, her final gift, sat between us like a promise. We carry her truth. We carry each other. We carry forward. Asterisk, thanks for watching till end. Please like and subscribe my channel. I will be very thankful to you. Sometimes life takes turns we never expect. Every person in this story carried their own pain, their own choices, and their own consequences. Maybe you saw yourself in one of them more. Maybe it reminded you of someone you once knew. What do you think happened next? What would you have done if you were in their place? If you have any questions about what happened to the other characters, or if you want me to share more about them, just comment below. I read every message you leave, and your thoughts truly mean a lot to me. And if this story touched your heart, inspired you, or even made you think differently, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep sharing stories that move people, open minds. And remind us we're all human. At the end of the day, your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for watching, for feeling, and for being part of this journey. More powerful stories are coming soon. Stay tuned and stay kind.